Okay, so this is Rumble Studio, and I'm supposed to be broadcasting to locals, YouTube, Twitch, X, and D Live, but it's not showing up on the feed yet for Rumble. It's still showing just a screensaver. Actually, a pretty cool looking screensaver. Oh, I think there it is. Okay, just a slight delay, but I think we're gonna be able to power through this. All right, cool. Just I'm gonna give it a short little moment. I don't know. Still, tomorrow's supposed to be a work day, and that's just it. What will tomorrow mean for mi ciudad, Los Angeles, knowing that this is the end of day three with very violent um, rioting going on? That apparently the what's their faces politicians and such are saying is not happening. More of the same from these individuals. Now I'm going to be sharing my screen, so it's not just me talking. Let me just pull up my screen that I'm going to share. Well, giving time for others to join in. So those of you joining on Rumble, thank you so very much. And locals, always appreciate you all, locals. So remember, this kind of timed out 30 minutes. So according to the timer, I have about 28 minutes left for locals. Until I hit like at least 50 there, I'll be able to stream longer than that. Um, so I appreciate anybody just joining my locals community to make that happen. All right, so this is I should be able to pull up now. I'm gonna have to turn this thing off. Hold on, or at least move it to the top. Um, move the banner to the top. Okay. All right. So this shouldn't be down here anymore where you're following me across the socials. Okay. Looks like some people are tuning in from YouTube as well. Okay. So this looks a little more laid out to the way I want to make this possible. But I'm also going to be talking from some of the posts that I've been making on Instagram because that's where I've been covering all this. So anybody wants to be more up to date about things that are going on, if you're not on X, for example, there's a lot of channels on X, and some of the stuff on X I actually repost. So I try to funnel them from different sources. Some of them are the official news media, such as Fox LA, KTLA, KCAL9. Not so much KCAL9, but definitely ABC7 News. In fact, I was supposed to pull up the live feed from um, uh, ABC7. So let me see if I could find it. ABC7 LA. They were covering this live. I think it's this one. I have this open in a separate link already. I had to give a crash course for some individuals because there's a lot of the main news. For those of you that don't actually follow or not as involved on X as possible, there's some official statements that have gone out there, and for that, I'm going to be reading off my Instagram. So let me stop sharing real quick for a moment. Let's just make it about me. Okay. Uh, so, and for those that are interested, you might want to. I'll keep an eye on the chats. I'm pulling all of them up. So if you're chiming in from Rumble's locals, YouTube, Twitch, or X, D Live, I'm sorry, I can't. It doesn't work with Rumble Studio that way. But do have to pull up my Instagram to give you guys real quick in a play-by-play of some of the major things that have happened and what the media said was not happening. And that's pivotal because obviously all this is going on. The narrative is this is Trump's fault. It's always Trump's fault. BLM, it's Trump's fault. Derek Chauvin put his knee on George Floyd's neck, back, whatever, Trump's fault. So all that writing and all that, it's January 6th, Trump's fault. So anything that happens when Trump's around, it's Trump's fault. Basically, that's the narrative that they're going with. But even yesterday, day two, with all the violence that was going on, the Los Angeles Police Department put out in the evening this newsletter. This press release. It says Los Angeles Police Department statement regarding today's peaceful protests. So even the LAPD was calling this to be supposedly peaceful, and that was conveniently put out around the time that Trump signed the order to deploy the National Guard. So let me rewind the clocks back a little bit. Let me go back about almost 72 hours. Okay. about what transpired in Los Angeles, because there's a lot of news and some people don't know about the major play-by-plays that have led to the decisions that were made. So the ICE raids here, people know about this. It's happening. There's been also demonstrations in New York and some other blue cities, but not to the extent that LA is. And I'll also explain why LA is the way LA is. There's a very diverse and rich culture here that I also want to highlight, because this is a complete for it. Okay, so uh, ICE was raiding certain places in downtown Los Angeles, most notably the Fashion District. So LA is really comprised of a lot of different districts. The Arts District, the Fashion District. People know the bodegas. So there's anybody that knows these places, you would know exactly where and what you're dealing with. But there's a lot of politicians and a lot of union labor all around, in which they somehow got the mo. These guys have been known for a while. Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, and LA's been a sanctuary city for the longest I can think of. They've been for a long time saying they will not comply or ICE in any of these raids. So they've been tipping off a lot of these places where the ICE raids will happen. So that means someone along the channel is supposed to be notifying either local officials and such that ICE will be present and they're going to be doing some raids. So some of the raids that were happening, the people weren't there anymore. So ICE was showing up to empty buildings, so to speak. But in some cases, some of these places that ICE raided, there were reports of restaurant owners locking ICE agents inside. And when I put all those things together, because of what transpires just a couple of hours later, it was almost like a delay tactic. First to get the illegal immigrants out, like through the back door, if you will, or tell them, hey, don't report in because ICE is showing up. La Migra's coming. Um, but trying to slow down or detain ICE the way they did set them up for what happened just a little bit later, because ICE was able to detain about 40 individuals. Now, I don't know if all 40 were supposed to be illegal immigrants, or that also included some of the individuals that were arrested because there was a leader of a union boss that was also arrested in the demonstrations trying to slow down ICE. So the ICE agents that were present, they regroup and gather in a garage of a detention center. So that's when the violent protesters showed up and were just destroying stuff outside. Some of you might have seen videos of them breaking down the columns, concrete columns, only to run into pure steel underneath. So not so much good it did them. But the point is, they were out there and they were calling for the death of the police. In this case, they were calling for they were graffitiing dead cops. They said "Death to America," but instead of C, they put three Ks in the spelling. Oh, how original! Um, but about 800 protesters gathered, and the ICE agents were inside. As this was happening, before it got so out of control, LA Mayor Karen Bass was denouncing the ICE raids and blaming, of course, the administration. But the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department also said they were not going to get involved. So basically, the federal agents were on their own. Well, I don't know if it was the sheriff's department or the LAPD, the police department, because there's two. The sheriff's department is in charge of the county, and LAPD, I'm going to assume, is one of the police departments that said they would not get involved. But because things got so rowdy, an estimated 600 to 800 protesters, violent and basically calling for blood outside, the police had to show up in riot gear and push all these away. There was one citizen journalist on the ground there named Anthony Cabanas, I believe. His name is in a Cabasa with two S's. The guy, awesome. He's been covering this, like just he's been on it. Okay, he is Anthony Cabasas on X and Informed with Anthony on Instagram for anybody interested. Those of you on the right might have heard of him, and some of you that are on the right are mistakenly attacking him because you're uneducated. You don't know how to read beyond a stupid headline. So stop attacking someone that's just doing reporting. Okay, if it wasn't for this guy, we wouldn't have the videos of Antifa uh, providing resistance gear, if you will, for the protesters. Okay, so he gets shot by one of the riot police. He almost loses his vision in his left eye. Okay, And thank God he was able to get his vision back by the evening, and he went back to the field yesterday, and he was there again today. So he's been out there. But the thing is, in the past, I would say 36 hours, Antifa was putting out a hit on him because they don't like that he's been catching um, their violent protests. Because according to the media, according to the politicians, these are all peaceful protests. Like the Summer of Love, the BLM rights. So he's catching these guys red-handed. And I'll tell you what happened at the Home Depot event yesterday. That's where all this really blew over, and what he also was able to capture today. So, with the riot police pushing out the ICE protesters, they were still trying to block vans and stuff from getting out. But that's where it all came to a head the next day, because it looks like people were ready for ICE to show up. And when I'm speaking about these places, I, I want those of you that probably don't know me as well, but for those of you that have been following me long enough would know that I'm an Angelino. I grew up on these streets. Okay, I'm from the border of Compton and Watts. So these are this is my home. This is my streets. I hate to see this. I've lived through the Rodney King riots, absolutely calamity, um, and all this other stuff ever since. So it's not new, unfortunately. There's a history of that. Um, but this is it's both a combination of the obviously communist resistance, um, but there's more behind it that's a little more sinister. That it's like it doesn't smell right. This is beyond that, and it looks to be the case. I'll share some information with you guys here in a little bit, but. Okay, so what happened at the Home Depot yesterday? What was very curious is that anybody that's ever been to Home Depot knows that cinder blocks are not normally placed at the front of the store. They're usually placed in the side or towards the back. There were pallets of bricks placed at the front, and barricades were being put up when ICE was showing up. Someone already knew, and I had a friend that was driving in the area, and he all this calamity is happening. He takes a picture, sent it to me. Hey, look, this is happening. I'm on Alondra, and I'm like, you're in Paramount, aren't you? It's like, yeah, yeah, I know exactly where you are because it's all happening in the news right now. And then the audacity of Governor Newsom, Karen Bass, to be speaking later. First off, they start denouncing some of the violence that's happening, but they all, including the media, and again today in the morning, say these are peaceful protests. They keep pushing this narrative of peaceful protest because they want to make it seem like Trump last night, in response to all the calamity that was going on, deploying the National Guard was an act of provocation. No, it was a reaction to an action that was already occurring. There's video evidence all over the place, which is why Antifa was calling for certain citizen journalists to be targeted, like Anthony Cavazos, and it was reported by Andy No, um, because of all this. Okay, so that's enough to bring you up to speed about what was going to transpire today. Today was more the same and worse. No surprise there. That's why Karen Bass came out a couple of times. One was a press release, and then another was a press conference to just highlight that this is all Trump's fault, and also to highlight another post from someone that was hopefully going to be mayor of Los Angeles, Rick Caruso. Uh, and even though he had outspent Karen Bass, still ended up losing. But people thought that he would provide a change for LA, only to prove that yeah, he wouldn't have been that much more different. Okay, let me see if there's anything more relevant from my Instagram stories that I should highlight. Oh, this is interesting. I should read this. This is from Mike Benz. Mike Benz published on June 7th. He says, it's crazy this riot is in Los Angeles while the mayor of LA, Karen Bass, was for 6 years on the board of NED, the CIA cutout that specializes in starting riots and street protests. Before she helped the CIA start riots, she was a community organizer, professionally organizes protests. How fascinating, which is why in seeing what he wrote on X made me connect to what was happening on Friday, and everything just boiled over. So I have some videos that I was posting, some Instagram stories. That's where I was covering this, and there's just so much news. That's why I try to put it up there. And this is history, by the way. There was so much chaos happening while the lying liars and the liars who tell them were on to say that this was all just peaceful. This was Compton. Compton, where a vehicle was approaching the barricade and just being shot up by non-lethals by the police behind the barricade. National Guardsmen, about 2,000 of them showing up. So one of the latest in that happened in the evening was that there's several hundred Marines that are on standby that are authorized to be deployed, and there were reports of Black Hawk helicopters that belong to the Department of Health, no, Department of Homeland Security, were also spotted over LA. Calamity in the highest, to say the least. But when you have a bunch of, I think I have, actually, you know, let me share this part now. I think I can pull up my ex. So let me go, um, my feed. Let me take off my logo. You guys know it's me, so let me just remove it for now. Okay, we'll be able to see. So I pulled up different columns. So these are the posts that I was making, and there I am live on X. So if anybody's watching on X, thank you so much. Looks like two people are viewing. Let me rewind a little bit. Oh, I think this is it. This was anti-ICE protesters and activists have set a car on fire in the middle of a busy intersection. I think that was yesterday. Here is Anthony explaining the extremists that were calling for Anthony Cavazos and this other one named Cam Hibby for documenting far left insurrection in Los Angeles. Uh, I forgot to touch me. Um, he's furious the two have captured raw video of the violence, making it harder for Antifa and the left to claim it was a peaceful protest. So we are in an outright propaganda war. This is why I ended up doing a stream tonight because it's just going to affect my schedule for tomorrow if I don't do this tonight. And besides, I just have a heavy heart for my city. It's just we can't catch a break. I have a family member that keeps telling me that the extremes that we've experienced as a nation, from Biden to Trump, is like judgment of the United States. And I told them I completely disagree with you. I call it justice. But with respect to LA, it does feel like judgment. 6 months ago, having the fires, which a lot of people on the right say, yeah, this was a targeted, all that stuff. And people that don't live here don't know jack squat. So I know some of them were like, because their theories that come true somewhere else, they assume they're going to be hit batting an average of 1.0 every single time, are wrong about this one. It's not getting any better. There's this Waymo vehicle right now. They're showing that it was just this one that was on fire, when in fact they approached, I don't know how many vehicles. But here's the thing that gets me the most. Why are you doing this? Why are you proudly waving a foreign country's flag? If if you're not living there, you're living here, but you're out there wearing this flag. I remember when the United States and Mexico were playing an exhibition match at the Rose Bowl. The Mexico team, when they were introduced, got all these praises and all that. But as soon as the American team took the field, they were booed like they were playing a visiting game, not a home game, because that's really what it feels like when you're over here. So many Mexicans are so proud of Mexico, but refuse to go back because they're here. It just makes no sense. The part that people need to they were putting up barricades later in the evening. Um, so uh, they're taking all these park benches. They're made out of metal. Of course, it'll block some non-lethals, but it's not going to. Someone asked me, "Is it going to block 308?" Yeah, but they're not using 308, and so don't. It looks like a war zone, though. It looks like Black Hawk Down, Mogadishu, and stuff like that. But in this case, they're all draped in Mexican garbs. But not everybody's draped that way. There is some concern because there are some people that were wearing Palestinian colors, and I don't know what that thing is called. It's a scarf that they put over. But so people are calling it a Hamas scarf or whatever. It doesn't look great with what's happening here, with acts of terror enacted against police. Well, it looks like there's no way wild Gavin Newsom. downtown Los Angeles, showing how the chaos and riots are breaking down. There's an update to this time lapse because then later you just see how much of the chemicals that are being thrown out there, like tear gas and all that, is changing the colors. And it's pretty wild. Susan Shelley. Susan Shelley put, it's going to be a long ride. The food truck just arrived. This was around 9:36 p.m., so about an hour ago from as I go live. Oh man, uh, it's trying to look for humor in all the chaos, and it's not pulling up for me. I'm going to read Rick Caruso's thing here because Rick Caruso is just being wrong about this. So another photojournalist just arrived to the scene, and she's posting as I'm live. Her name is Fire Photo Girl. I was really sharing a lot of her content during the fires. So this is her showing up, and as soon as she shows up, she's catching this. This protester is just smashing car windows and just getting shot at and starts moving away. So all dressed all black like that, that pretty much screams Antifa. For anybody that knows. So what she put here is this live. This is just a tweet. Oh, they're vandalizing the buses. Yeah, that's what's happening now. Of course, vandalizing the buses. That's what I got to do with the police and ice cream. This is happening a lot more of what's going on in the evening. Now, one of the big things that occurred like in the past hour and a half was this. It's an individual that was losing his mind. He was in the minivan. Let me see how much of the clip is here.
Yeah,
And he was performing these donuts and actively trying to run over the protesters. So can we chalk this up to vigilante justice? I don't know. But, after performing some of these donuts, this was a clip. I think this was clipped out from the 7 Live. But after trying to run them over,
and as you're saying that, we're watching somebody
the vehicle's going to make a turn here and turn around and go the other. Yeah,
because there's just so many pedestrians running around, so many people with their phones out. This guy's already hit multiple things. You see the bumper damage, almost hitting that vehicle head on, and people are continuing to throw rocks at him. This is Alameda and Cesar Chavez. I think that guy was trying to go up to the driver's door. More people throwing things at this vehicle. Again, we don't know.
Hard.
They defend themselves in this.
Oh no! I thought he was going to hit the motorcycle.
It looked like he was aiming for.
Look, I don't like any of the chaos that these protesters are doing. I'm calling for the arrest of those that are breaking laws and making violent acts and stuff
now
like
responding.
I think this is a scene where the driver's
These
arrested.
are sheriff's deputies. They're putting him in custody right now.
I've never called for violence of any kind, and I cannot condone something this stupid. But it's going to lead to more of that. What's that one? The movie with Charles Bronson? They did a bunch of series of those. You're going to get more. The people are going to get desperate. There's a difference between a rooftop Korean defending his house defending his shop during the Rodney King riots, and then that was defending. This was actively attacking, and it's wild, man. What's this from Cam Hibby? I don't follow him. Right now. Okay. What did he do? Look at those police cars that have been damaged. There's video and I could find of the overpass at the I think it was the 101 freeway. So that means it's the north side of downtown Los Angeles because there's two major arteries that cut in through downtown Los Angeles. One of them is the 110 freeway. That's the one that goes up by the Staples Center, and then there's the 101 freeway that comes from above. So they kind of meet just north of like the main buildings. But the 101 is known for the cutaway because on the 101 you can actually see the immigration detention center that's there. So it's in that one where there was let me see if I can find it here. You guys have to see it. There were a lot of stones being, not stones, but cinder blocks being thrown at the police vehicles and police present. Yeah, so here's an example where it was just an overwhelming number. This is like up and down stilts that was brought down. Why are you wearing stilts, dude? Yeah, can't. Let me see. I think this was yesterday. So, see, this is the kind of stuff
And this is not just a good gesture, this is something we need to make real. We need to bring down this empire once and for all.
You cannot do that to those other countries. You can do that.
Burn it down! Burn it down!
What's Gavin Newsom saying now? New Gavin Newsom is blaming President Trump for tonight's fighting protests and anxieties. Because of course he is. That's why they've been trying to parrot for the past 72 hours that these protests were peaceful. Nothing bad is happening. And meanwhile, these citizen journalists have been covering all of this calamity, and who are you going to believe, man? That's why it's frustrating. I don't want to go through this rabbit hole. It's frustrating when you're having to be at odds with what's his face, Elon Musk, because you dare criticize him, then you lose your livelihood. He proved it over the winter. But yeah, so this is the big one. Yesterday, Anthony Cabasas, he found, he's the one who noted, why is there the big pallet of cinder blocks in the front of the Home Depot? And now he finds this. These are pallets of, what does he find? I discovered a pallet of some sort of stone slabs where they were near where protests were earlier. They grabbed the stone from the pallet and broke it up into smaller pieces to launch toward policemen. This is the only pallet here, and it is in the random building corner. So this stuff is actually being launched, and I don't know if Breaking 911 has it. So let me see. Breaking 911, do you have it? Because, yeah, here we go. Thank you. So they were throwing it to the cop cars here. There's different video angles. Look at all these cop cars that were destroyed. But this is later, because earlier they were blocking the path, so they were out on the freeway. There's the Alameda Street demonstration. There's the one on the freeway, and right behind it, there's the detention center. So that's why this is one of the more infamous bridges that's often in these situations. So before that, the police were walking in presence here, and you could see them hurling those slabs at them. It's just, it definitely is a calamity. Then there's this guy.
Out to CNN's Kyung Law, who has been standing by all day. Kyung, a lot has happened since we've been talking to you. Where are you now? What is the status where you are?
Be pictured standing there with
there are multiple protests now, or at least we should call them incursions between the people who've been demonstrating here, people who've joined in, and law enforcement. We are near where all of this began, and what you're seeing here is a line of a mix of, though predominantly federal agents, Department of Homeland.
Now one is calling it. This isn't a protest, it's criminal activity, whereas law enforcement, believe me, they are there. But they're putting an American flag inside a Waymo vehicle. This is an example of several vehicles that this is happening. There's the video. Oh yeah, this is one of the Americans, but look behind it. Each of these cars that have burned. Not to mention vehicles that were being burned to block streets when the buses, the federal buses were breaking barricades and finding ways to go around. There's just, it's gruesome. So the question becomes, what happens tomorrow? What happens tomorrow as people return to it? We're supposed to return to it. And look, my company does work in Los Angeles. A lot of it in these areas. It's I have to keep in mind the health and safety of my employees. Will I be able to send them to their job sites? I mean, will they be harassed? I don't know. Will they be caught in the middle of become collateral damage? Sure hope not. Let's see if ABC 7 is showing. Let's take a quick live look to
some CHP vehicles down there. That situation has
let's see if you guys can see
seemed to have calmed down a bit right now. But you're looking at Hill and Temple Streets where that
are watching.
Looks like these are going to be LAPD units now, and LAPD units and their special response team. They are really just trying to flood the area with resources, trying to flood downtown with resources. As I look down Hill Street, Spring Street, it's nothing but flashing lights, red and blue flashing lights, pretty much as far as the eye can see in this downtown area.
But I'm doing this. So right now, this is a live look
kind of rising through the shot there, right where that LAPD chopper just flew the shot. Flew through the shot. That is a little bit of a brush fire there that LAPD believes was started by an individual, and they are actually trying to follow or see if there's any available units to follow that individual north on Hill Street.
now
the
just
area
for
unit was
Rumble,
calling out the
YouTube,
location of the
Twitch, X, and below.
individual. The area unit believes
So
started
this is
that
the live
little
look.
fire
What
there.
downtown looks like from
But
ABC News 7.
there's kind of a
Just about an hour
balance
and a
that
half ago, they were able to
LAPD
capture,
has
or
to
about 2
manage
hours
here.
ago,
They
they were
have
able
to
to capture
decide,
that
okay,
that
what
van that
is
was making
actually
those
worth it to take on
dangerous
right now.
donuts and trying to run over
We're
the
zooming in on
protesters. The
Ord
driver
Yale
was
Street, where the
gave chase.
LAPD area
The
unit is
police gave
focused on
chase and
right now,
arrested him.
and we're just going to keep an eye on
So
things and
that
see
that clean and
which
present danger
areas in this
is
area
gone for
of
now.
Hill
It
Street and
has
kind
been
of
a
the
long
101
day.
freeway,
It was a warm
which
day, depending on where
what
you were.
areas
So I'm sure there
have
was the
activity
heat would get to
involved
some
with
of these folks,
protesters,
especially when
and
there's
where
tear
LAPD
gas
moves
being
from here.
thrown,
Gabe
and so
Santos
much
in Air
physical
7, thank
exertion
you. We're going to keep
when you're
you up
climbing over
and your
vehicles,
shot as
causing all
things
this
remain
havoc, and there's
chaotic in
smoke
parts of
everywhere.
downtown LA
Absolutely.
tonight. An unruly
So
crowd
uh,
challenging police,
I
shooting
don't
off
know what
fireworks, starting fires. We have
if we're
seen
gonna
some looting
see
as
more
well.
of
Eyewitness
resistance
News
throughout
reporter
the
Tim
night.
Caputo
Although,
is
like
down
Susan
there
Shelley
live
did
in
put
downtown. How's it
this.
looking right
I
now?
hope you guys can hear the audio because I'm not
And
hearing the
Mark,
audio.
the crowd has been
I'm
moving
gonna
from
pull up
intersection
on
to
Rumble. Let's see if you
intersection.
guys
So
can.
essentially, you'll have in 1 second a crowd of several hundred people, and then LAPD will move in and move the crowd out. But I want to show you this because I think the entire day can be summed up in one hand. You have this small piece of concrete. You're going to find these all over the streets of downtown Monday morning. Pieces like this and even bigger than this is what has been hurled at police officers, at police vehicles, at federal agents, at CHP all day long.
Okay, so I can't hear the audio for some reason, but I'm glad you guys can. So I didn't know that I was actually speaking over some people that were doing reporting for the ABC broadcast. So my apologies for that. So I muted it for now, but we got the gist of it, that there concrete stuff being thrown, and there were reports. There's still some agitation going down. I see. Looks like what is that? Those little firecracker thingies. Some of them are mortars. Oh, look at that. Okay, so some of the stuff is going down throughout the evening right now. There were some videos. See, some of the dumpster fires are being thrown to try to commit a barricade. Dude, you're waving a Mexican flag, but you won't go back to some of those Waymo vehicles. Uh, the irony in that uh, that some of these protesters are protesting that the federal agents would send Mexicans back to Mexico, the country that they're proudly waving the flag for. There's an irony in all that, and I know not everybody's Mexican, and it's not all the thing. Look, I totally get it. So I'm gonna wind down a little bit about this because I need to explain a few things about Los Angeles. As an Angelino born and raised, there's some insight that I do have to hear, and because I don't share in the political beliefs of a lot of my fellow peers and my peers, that's why they always thought of me as like an outsider. I'm not one of them because I'm sorry. I think for myself. I don't vote Democrat. There's someone that got hit maybe by well, I'm assuming a non-lethal round and things like that. So it's a good montage of the chaos that happened just today on day 3. So will there be a day 4? It's a wait and see. But let me explain real quick why LA is so diverse, because just 6 months ago, LA was, the whole community came together to look after one another for all the craziness that was happening because of just how insane things were. The National Guard was brought in to go help out and to go help the firefighters, the first responders, and to also protect the affected regions from looters, from those that still had property to protect. The National Guard showed up for that. I had people telling me and sending me DMs, nah, man, the National Guard's being sent there because it's taking over the land and all these different things. You already know what's going on. Yes, I do, because I've lived in Los Angeles. I was born and raised in LA. I do all my commerce in LA. You are not here. So I'm sick and tired of people that have never set foot on LA to tell me what LA politics and life is like here. Seriously, what you see on TV isn't always LA. Although you can get an idea of what it's like here by Training Day. That's the most extreme example of one. Heat is another one because it shows you a different side of LA and how LA does work, like, well, police and all that. And what's the other one? La La Land, of course, gives you an idea of a very uh, like vibrant Los Angeles, which there is truth to that. Then you get these other extremes like the Kardashians. All of that's Los Angeles. mix it all in, and then you sprinkle the culture, then you sprinkle the different ethnicities and races that are involved here. It's a very diverse place. Odds are you're gonna find a taco stand every block. It's something that, and not all taco stands are the same. Okay, yeah. So you gotta know which ones to go to, because some are better than others. But the point is that you can find all this rich culture and history from Chinatown. We don't have a little Mexico, but where the Hispanic places are. But we do have like the Chinatown, Little Saigons, Koreatown, and it's funny because you shouldn't be going to the ones in downtown. You should be going to the ones in San Gabriel Valley. Get away from those because that's kind of fake. You want the real thing? Go to San Gabriel Valley. It's just the way it works. But almost everything from downtown Los Angeles all the way down to like even middle Orange County, it's just a lot of just Hispanic culture, Latin culture, which some people call because of the Americas, and of course Mexican mostly. So the community, as diverse as it is, recognizes when we need one another, like when the fires happen, and we'll come together. But when it comes to politics, then that's a whole other story. There's a massive presence of communists here because for generations they have been indoctrinated by our institutions of indoctrination that we call the school districts because of the unions. And with those generations being raised up to believe in socialism and communism, and then only one party system pretty much over here being put in positions of power, they're pushing for the policies that they all believe this is it. We have the most extreme examples of government overreach in terms of rent control. Rent control is just a small section, well, it's a big section actually, of what is called a rent stabilization ordinance. A rent stabilization ordinance gives the government the authority to basically manage your property. If you have tenants in your own property, they're the ones supervising you renting out to them. And if they don't like how you're doing it, they can take your property away. That's a rent stabilization ordinance. LA's had it for decades. Okay. Cesar Chavez is also a very well-known individual. I hear mixed things about him. I never really cared to look into that. First off, it's not my culture, not my race, and that's not my thing. But as I understood it, he was also connected to unions. But we have Cesar Chavez streets named after him. We have a day for Cesar Chavez. There's been a lot of influential Latinos throughout Los Angeles. I mean, that's what the name really means. Translated to English, the City of Angels. Politics. Back in 1992, 91, Rodney King riots, police brutality, racist cops and all that. National Guard was called in for that too. I remember the tanks rolling in through downtown Los Angeles. What a sight that was. Then you have the BLM riots. I don't understand what it meant to go destroy your neighbor's property and now supposedly fighting racism. But then the decriminalization of a lot of lower level crime and the infamous, so long as you don't steal or shoplift more than $150, you'll be okay. Those kind of laws. And that law that the Californians foolishly passed was called the Safer Neighborhoods Act. It was anything but. My goodness, but LA is as communist as it gets. They are unapologetically communist. So what you're seeing play out here with all this chaos is akin to a color revolution. Okay, but in this case, they're the ones in power. So the presence of Los Federales, if you will, but in this case from the Trump administration, not the Biden administration, and is putting at odds with the political policies in place by the current rulers, and it's upending their rule. And we know what's really ironic in all this, because there's some individuals in my someone shared with me a post tonight, and it's like, what does it mean by this? Is this to say that they're rooting for Obama over Trump and things like that? Yeah, that's exactly what it means. They put an Obama thing out there and that was criticizing Trump's character. Okay, what the hell's that got to do with now? What is the context of that post? Because if you're really going to highlight Obama, let's talk about how none of these leftists complained about the millions that Obama deported. But as soon as Trump deports 100,000, it's hell to pay. Seriously, the inconsistencies know no bounds. And it all has to do with all this media propaganda that's been going on. It's been failing, by the way. You cannot lie to the people and tell them they're not seeing what they're seeing. And it's gotten so exaggerated that they keep trying. And I'm stunned at even the police department that was defunded by Karen Bass was also doing the same. It's like, what are you guys call this peaceful protest? I'm glad the LAPD chief came out to say, like, no, we got to reevaluate the tactics. We got to go out there and force. And we just saw on that the ABC7 video that there was a lot. And I'm looking at it right now. There's a lot of controversy about the presence of the National Guard. So National Guardsmen that were brought in for the fires, I believe they left about 2 weeks ago. So they left. That's why there was a concern by the people. We're like, hey, you guys left. Pacific Coast Highway was reopened, but now we're concerned about having a lot of public traffic coming through. What if there's people that have malicious intent and try to go loot and steal again? So some people wanted the safety and security of the National Guard, which is very different than what other people are assuming. But now here's the irony: the National Guard's back in Los Angeles, but for different reasons. There's probably the same people that were deployed recently and having to come back, and I'm like, again. But this time for a whole other reason. The other one was to protect property, and now it's to lay down the law to protect from the very people they were supposedly protecting. Dude, man, LA, it feels so bipolar. But back to a point that I brought up earlier, where a family member said that feels that because the extremities of the administration change from the previous to now is a judgment on this country. And I say, no, it's justice. This Los Angeles feels like judgment. All the different natural disasters that we've been having, that we don't seem to get a break on. I haven't touched for those who follow me on Instagram, know that I covered the fires a lot. You probably haven't seen me post a lot of fires. I can't keep up with them, but they're not that big either. And the thing about the fires that I wanted to mention, because a lot of people were, I see this is all these direct energy weapons, Andres. You just got to open your eyes and see it. It's like, where were you last year? You didn't say anything about the previous fire from last year. That one fire was bigger than all the fires that happened this year so far. You didn't say anything about that. It destroyed about as many structures and killed about as many people. Now, where were you a few years before that? For one fire that destroyed more than in the past 2 years worth of wildfires combined, and killed over 80 people. Where were you for those? See, that's why it frustrates me when people try to bring their political viewpoints, because they shut themselves off and they only think in one way. There's no way for political discourse. That's what you're seeing here. That's the same behavior that leftists have. I've seen it on the right. That's why we will never get anything done, because cooler heads won't prevail. People are entrenched in their ideologies, and they'll stick to that to the bitter end. And even when they're wrong, it's ridiculous. It's like, how is that different than a religious belief? I'm sick of it, man. That's why this year I feel like I've been more at odds with the right than I've been with the left. But at least this time I could be like, yeah, this is leftist, this is communist tactics. But is it being funded? Is it being funded by Qatar? Is it being funded by what we know? A labor union is highly involved here, but there's been a lot of suspicious stuff happening, and probably taxpayer money too, of notably terrorist tactics. So that's the big red flag in all this. And well, we'll just wait and see what happens the next day. If things do continue for day 4, it'll be a Monday, that's for sure. Then I'm gonna bump the interview that I was scheduled to post tomorrow. It's one that I've had in the works for a while. I'll bump it to Tuesday, and I'll go live again and cover this. But if it doesn't, then I'll be very happy that I can post my interview tomorrow. But it's been a long day. disappointing evening. So I'll just leave it at that. So for those of you that have tuned in, thank you so much for tuning in this long. This is probably not going to stay up on YouTube, so go to Rumble for those of you on YouTube. And for those of you that were on locals, I appreciate you a lot. Thank you so very much. And anyone that's been watching on XD Live, I appreciate you all the same, and Twitch. So that's where I'll leave it. Thanks very much. I'll see you guys on the next one.